Trae Young for the Hawks, no Giannis for the Bucks.
It's Eastern Conference Finals. There's no excuses. It doesn't matter whoever's playing, who's not playing. You got to fight through and win.
Caught and flushed by Brook Lopez. They have no answer for Lopez.
Off to Bobby Portis. Slam dunk.
Portis has come up big. The fans love him here. Middleton spins, gets deep. What a move.
I thought we just did a great job of playing together. And when everyone's scoring, everyone's doing their thing, that's tough for the defense.
And so, on a night where the stars were not available, the Bucks move a win away from their first trip to the finals since 1974. In NBA postseason history, 84% of teams up 3-2 in a best-of-7 go on to win. More than half of those win it in 6 games. And our basketball conversation continues here as we bring back Vince Carter and Windy, and my man Zach Lowe jumps into the conversation, getting up with us. Zach, let's get your take on last night. Again, no Giannis, no Trae Young. The power game of the Milwaukee Bucks just fully dominant in an easy win in the fourth quarter. What was your primary takeaway?
Yeah, just what you said. Inside, they had no answer. It was like a Brook Lopez dunk fest. I've never seen Brook Lopez dunk that much in his entire career. Bobby Portis was all over the place. They just dominated the interior. But more than that, Greeny, it just didn't feel like a conference finals game 5, pivotal, maybe finals berth on the line without the 2 superstars in the game. It felt like a little bit of a bummer, but you got to credit the Bucks. They've been resilient, no matter who's been injured on their team or the other team. They bring their defense, they bring their hard hats every game, and you got to give them a lot of credit for that.
Okay, and so they take the 3-2 series lead, and Windy and Vince Carter chimed in on that a little bit earlier. So I want to go to a different topic here that I know a lot of people who follow the sport have been paying attention to. So last night, with Giannis missing the game, he becomes the 10th All-Star from this season to miss a playoff game, which shatters the previous record, which had been 6, and that doesn't include Trae Young. You might say, why isn't Trae Young on that screen? It's because he wasn't an all-star this year, but he certainly fits into the category of that caliber of player. So it's 11 players of that magnitude who have missed at least one playoff game, which again is by far the most that we have ever seen. And so Vince is one who has been in this competition many times in your career. I would ask you, do you believe that when it is all said and done, you see the Suns coming through a Western Conference where they didn't have to play, Anthony Davis got hurt, Jamal Murray wasn't there, Kawhi Leonard wasn't there. Will that be attached to this? Will there be some sort of psychological asterisk attached to whatever team winds up winning this whole thing?
In my opinion, Greeny, that's tough to say because let's say if Chris Paul did not return and the Lakers move on, or Chris Paul doesn't return because of COVID or whatever the case may be. So I think you deal with what's in front of you and what you're dealt with, and you move on. Can you crack the code? Can you still figure out a way to get the job done? And it's unfortunate because, like you said, it's a bummer. You didn't see the best players. You're not seeing the best players on the floor all the time, and you're seeing the other guys have to carry the load. But that's a part of the game. That's a part of, can you crack the code? Can your other guys crack the code? Stay ready and figure it out. So, it's unfortunate because we're seeing some guys go down because of actual injury, not because of the condensed season.
And so I want to admit to everyone now, as I sit here and smile, I set this up because I had Brian Windhorst on my radio show talking about this the other day, and I know he has very strong feelings on the subject. Windy, the floor is yours.
Greeny, I reject the entire premise of an asterisk when it comes to situations like this. The fact that all of these guys are injured only underscores how difficult it is to make it through this. Let's just stay with the Phoenix Suns. Let's go back in time, 2005. That was one of the great teams of the last 20 years. They probably won the title that year, but Joe Johnson gets tripped up, falls on his face, and breaks a bone around his eye, and it derails their whole team. Let's go a couple years later, 2007. I promise you, if they beat the Spurs in that series, that they're going to kill the Cavs in LeBron's first finals. But they lose one game because they can't get a bloody nose on Steve Nash to stop, and they lose the pivotal game because Amari Stoudemire got suspended controversially. Should we go slap asterisks on those Spurs titles? You can go through year by year by year and look at situations that happened. And I would even argue that the fact that this run has been so unpredictable and in and out for all of these players, that they're standing there in the finals is a testament to the way that they've played and the way that they operate their organization. And so, to me, not only should there not be an asterisk this season, it should even be uplifted for surviving this gauntlet.
Go ahead, Zach Lowe. Follow that.
Well, I was going to say, Wendy covered it. Don't take this conversation to Phoenix Suns fans. You're going to hear all about the Steve Nash hip check and the bloody noses and broken eye sockets and a lot of unpleasant topics. And to the Suns' credit, when they got the Lakers without Anthony Davis, they rolled them. When they got the Nuggets without Jamal Murray, they swept them. The Clippers series, yeah, that was tough, but they put a stamp on it with the blowout at the end. And guess what? The Jazz, now they had injuries too. They couldn't beat the Clippers one time without Kawhi Leonard. So the Suns have done their job. Look, we don't have to be so dumb about this, right? Every year is different. Every championship feels a little different. The 2011 Mavericks, we remember that team because that was the Dirk title, the guy that stayed. The 2017-18 Warriors were like, well, of course they won. They're a super team. And why is this conversation also not about the Eastern Conference teams? Like, it's always about the Suns. What about the teams that didn't have to face Kyrie Irving or got to face James Harden on one leg? And that said, every season's different. We can remember them differently, but respect whoever wins this title.
I love the topic. I love the passion. It's certainly something everybody is talking about, and we will continue in a little bit. Guys, sit tight. Much more hoops as we go. Thank you. In the meantime,
the series, as teams to take a 3-2 series lead go on to win the best of 7 series 83.9% of the time. So Max Kellerman, that tells me big implications tonight, sir. Tell me this, who wins game 5?
The Atlanta Hawks. Don't tell me that they're playing in Milwaukee. I don't like. It comes down to, again, Giannis is not playing Game 5. Trae Young and Clint Capella might play Game 5. So if one team has its team on the floor and the other team is missing its best player, give me the team that's not missing its best player. This ain't complicated. If Trae Young plays and Giannis doesn't play, I just saw Giannis play and Trae not play and the Hawks still won. No, if Trae plays and Giannis doesn't, Stephen A., Hawks are going to win on the road or not.
Max, you might be right, but I'm going with the Bucks tonight. I think they're on their home turf back in Milwaukee. I think Middleton and Drew Holiday and the rest of the crew rise to the occasion, and I think they survive. And they beat the Atlanta Hawks tonight, and then the Atlanta Hawks will come. I think that as a result of that, Milwaukee will refrain from playing Giannis in Game 6 as well. And as a result, Atlanta goes back to the ATL, wins Game 6, and then there's a Game 7 back in Milwaukee. And we'll make that decision then when it happens. I just think that this is a home court advantage for the rest of this series right now, at least over the next 2 games. I think both teams will protect their home court because sometimes you play down to the moment. I've seen the Atlanta Hawks do that. Sometimes you play up to the moment. I've seen the Milwaukee Bucks do that. And I think tonight is one of those nights where Middleton will go off. He'll explode. He'll get significant help from Drew Holiday. He'll answer the call. And I think defensively, they will step their game up overall collectively. And as a result, they'll probably win, probably by about 7 or 8 points and go back to
Hope you're
Atlanta.
right. Love to see it.
Guys, we got like 60 seconds, but I want to ask you this, Stephen A. Will the winner of the East beat the West? And the Suns, obviously, who are waiting.
I haven't made that decision yet. I'm inclined to have the Phoenix Suns as the favorites right now, unless Giannis is healthy. If Giannis is healthy, Milwaukee would be my favorite.
Max, where are you on
this? If the Suns are healthy, they're going to beat the Hawks or the Bucks, even if the Hawks and the Bucks are at full strength. Everyone at full strength, Suns are going to win the championship.
Just like you predicted it. This is your time to gloat, Max. Tell everybody.
Well, if you need to hear the Max Kellerman show, what was it, November 20th or 16th episode? You go to the podcast, go to around 8:12, I believe it is. Not that I'm
basically, when the trade happened, he said he thought the Suns might win the championship.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure to give him his flowers. Now
I picked several teams ahead of them, but I said I wasn't sure, and sure enough, there were injuries.
So basically, Stephen A., per usual, he gave himself a lot of options, so he would be right.
Did you? Anyone else say the Suns were a top 5 team in the West?
No, Max.
When you're legit,
you're the greatest.
You don't need flowers.
Thank you.
You really don't.
All right.
Sometimes
Thanks for hanging with us. This was fun. First take in the afternoon. Goodbye, everybody. Have a fabulous evening. Enjoy the game.
This is SportsCenter with Elle Duncan and Kevin Nagandi.
Good evening on this Bobby Bonilla Day. A friendly reminder from your friends Kevin and Elle. to play the long game. Is that what the Hawks are going to do in regards to Trae Young? We've got an update on his availability for Game 5 tonight, Kev.
Okay, plus after waiting a long time, the long game, college athletes today are finally getting the chance to earn money off their name, image, and likeness. More on who has already signed deals. But first, they'll mention Game 5 tonight. That leaves our headlines, and we know one person and one star who will not be playing, and that is Giannis. He will not be on the floor suiting up as he recovers from a knee injury. Adrian Wojnarowski says an MRI showed no structural damage, but it's unclear when he could play as the Eastern Conference Finals is tied at 2 apiece. In the NFL, the Washington football team has been fined $10 million after an investigation into allegations of sexual harassment over a 15-year period. In a statement, owner Daniel Snyder said he is ceding day-to-day operations to his wife, co-CEO Tanya Snyder. The NFL also fined the 49ers, the Jaguars, and the Cowboys and their head coaches for violations during OTAs, according to Adam Schefter. The biggest fines were $200,000 for Jacksonville and $100,000 for their new head coach, Urban Meyer. And Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner made it clear today that he's not his late father. The son is keeping skipper Aaron Boone, GM Brian Cashman, and his core players despite their struggles coming off a horrific loss last night. We'll hear from Hal coming up later in the show.
All right, Kevin, we are knotted up at 2 apiece in the Eastern Conference Final as the series is shifting back till Milwaukee for Game 5 tonight. Here are some of the bigger storylines that we're watching. Trae Young, questionable to play. Already been ruled out, dealing with that hyperextended left knee. You're looking at it right near. He suffered that near the end of the fourth quarter of Game 4. Both the Bucks and Hawks have struggled historically when tied 2-2 in best-of-7 series, and that's a little bit of an issue, right? Milwaukee has a 4-11 series record when they're tied at 2-all. That is the worst record among franchises to play at least 10 such series. Atlanta, not a ton better, 10-14 series record in that exact same spot. And as for Game 5, the Bucks are going to need a really big night from Chris Middleton without Giannis, who has struggled in the fourth quarter. As we say hello to Stephen A. Smith, who is joining us now ahead of that pivotal Game 5 between the Hawks and the Bucks. Giannis is out. Trae Young listed as questionable. Stephen A., put on your Miss Cleo cap. How do you see this game playing out tonight?
Well, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're going to get the ball to Chris Middleton and you're going to run the offense through him. He's your secondary offensive option, and he's got all the talents and the skills there necessary. He's got a long-range game. He certainly has a mid-range game. He can handle the rock, he can get to the basket, he can hit free throws once he gets there. It's just that he's Mr. Roller Coaster. He'll drop 39 one game, 13 the next, and come back and drop 38 the next. He can't make up his mind what he wants to do on a consistent basis, and that's been a hindrance for the Milwaukee Bucks. But expect him to be that focal point tonight, along with Drew Holiday, who's been shooting the ball respectably well or so right now. I think it's at 46% from the field, 38.5% from three-point range. Get him the ball more. They're averaging 21 and 20 respectively. And in my opinion, you've got to play Bobby Portis a little bit more. He's only averaging about 17.4 minutes per game. Get him in the game more. He shoots about 50% from the field. He can put the ball in the hole. He's got some skills. Plus, he's a big body to offset the loss of Giannis to some degree. Get him in the game and get him about 30 minutes tonight. And I think that's what you'll see the Milwaukee Bucks do to try to pull off this Game 5 win.
And again, we are still waiting on an update on Trae Young's availability and Clint Capella, their big man, who has suffered an eye injury in Game 4 as well. He's listed as questionable for this game, so a lot still to be decided. Stephen A. joining us here on SportsCenter.